There comes a point in life when you realize that your peace, your confidence, and your self-worth are too important to leave in someone else's hands. You get tired of being treated like your feelings don't matter, tired of second-guessing your worth, tired of giving energy to people and situations that take more than they give. This is when something changes. You stop trying to earn respect and start building it from the inside out. Unshaken self-worth, disrespect proof. Your inner world is about reaching that turning point and staying there. It's about learning how to rise every day with belief in yourself, how to stop chasing approval, how to walk away from disrespect, and how to stay calm when life tries to test your strength. This is not about becoming hard or emotionless. It's about becoming centered, disciplined, and free. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to silence self-doubt, protect your peace, and live with the kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. You'll see how powerful you become when you keep your word, when you take bold action, and when you refuse to beg for respect. Every chapter will guide you to take back control of your inner world, where your real strength lives. If you've ever felt overlooked, misunderstood, or disrespected, this is your reminder that you don't have to stay that way. You can rebuild your confidence piece by piece. You can create a life that reflects your true value, and you can do it without shouting, proving, or explaining yourself to anyone. So, take a deep breath and stay with this until the end. What you're about to hear isn't just advice. It's a practical path to becoming unshakable, calm, and grounded in who you are. Because once you learn how to protect your worth from the inside, no one on the outside can ever take it from you again. Chapter 1. Rise every day with unshakable belief in yourself. Every morning, life gives you another chance to believe in yourself. Again. The sun rises, whether you are ready or not, and that quiet light slipping through the window holds a silent message. It's time to begin again. You may have doubts, you may carry yesterday's worries, but the simple act of standing up today is proof that you still have power within you. The world might test your patience, challenge your confidence, or make you question your worth, but self-belief is not something you find out there. It's something you decide to build right here, inside yourself, every single day. Belief in yourself doesn't appear overnight. It grows through moments of difficulty, moments when you feel like giving up but keep moving anyway. When you rise with belief, you remind yourself that no matter what others think, your life is your responsibility. Your confidence is not up for negotiation. And even if the world turns its back on you, you have to be the one person who never does. Many people wake up each morning and immediately think about their problems, the tasks ahead, or the mistakes behind them. They scroll through their phones, compare their lives, and start the day already doubting themselves. But that kind of morning sets the tone for the entire day. It hands your peace over to everything outside of you. Rising with unshakable belief means taking those first few moments of the day and building your foundation of strength. Before the noise of the world seeps in, you make a silent promise. I am capable. I am enough. I will face this day on my terms. That mindset may sound simple, but it changes everything. When you start the day by trusting yourself, you set a rhythm of quiet power. You stop depending on circumstances to decide how you feel. The morning becomes a declaration of independence, freedom from self-doubt, from outside approval, from fear of failure. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. You begin the day rooted in truth, that your value doesn't depend on outcomes, mistakes, or opinions. It's something you carry within you, unshaken and steady. To rise every day with unshakable belief, you must begin by confronting the small ways you doubt yourself. The hesitation before speaking your mind, the way you second-guess your choices, the times you apologize for existing or shrink your voice to make others comfortable. Each of these moments teaches your mind that you cannot trust yourself, and over time, that belief eats away at your confidence. The only way to reverse that is to catch those moments and challenge them. When you hear the voice that says, "You're not ready," answer it with action. When fear whispers, "What if you fail?" remind yourself, "I will learn." The mind becomes what you feed it, and every morning you have the chance to feed it courage instead of doubt. Belief is built through consistency, not comfort. Each time you do what you said you'd do, no matter how small, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you want to be. Every day you keep your word to yourself, you grow more confident. You no longer need others to validate your worth because your actions do it for you. Rising with unshakable belief means honoring your commitments even when no one is watching. It's in waking up early when you'd rather sleep in, finishing a task when you're tired, speaking kindly to yourself when the world is unkind. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from showing up when it would be easier not to. You will face days when everything feels heavy, when you question your direction, your decisions, or your place in the world. Those are the days that matter most. Anyone can believe in themselves when life is going well. True belief is tested when nothing seems certain, when plans fall apart, and when your strength is stretched thin. That's when you must remind yourself that resilience is not about pretending you're fine, it's about knowing you'll get through it. Rising with unshakable belief means accepting that doubt may visit, but it doesn't stay. You acknowledge it, breathe through it, and keep moving forward. You may have spent years believing that confidence is something you have to earn from others. Maybe you learned to measure your worth by how much people like you or how much you accomplish. But that's not self-belief, that's dependency. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are, even when no one applauds it. It comes from recognizing your growth, your integrity, and your quiet persistence. When you rise each morning and see yourself through that lens, life changes. You no longer beg for validation. You walk with assurance. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You just live your truth fully. There will always be opinions. There will always be people who misunderstand you or underestimate your strength. But belief in yourself means learning to separate their voices from your own. You can listen without losing yourself. You can accept feedback without accepting disrespect. The difference lies in awareness, knowing that no one has the authority to define your worth unless you hand it to them. Every morning, remind yourself of this. I am not what others think of me. I am what I choose to become. If you want to rise with unshakable belief, start by taking care of the basics that strengthen your body and mind. Wake up at a time that honors your goals, not your excuses. Move your body, even a little, to remind yourself that you are alive and capable. Spend the first few minutes of your morning without your phone, so you can hear your own thoughts before the world drowns them out. Write down what you're grateful for or what you intend to accomplish today. It doesn't have to be grand, it just needs to be honest. Each of these habits reinforces your belief that you are in control of your life. Confidence is not a loud voice or a fearless attitude. It's a calm knowing that you can handle what comes your way. When you rise each day with this mindset, your actions follow. You start making decisions based on clarity, not fear. You start saying no to what drains you and yes to what aligns with your growth. You no longer rush to fix everything. You trust the process of your effort. And over time, the world begins to reflect the strength you've been cultivating quietly inside. The truth is, no one is born with unshakable belief. It's built through moments of choice. Every time you face something uncomfortable, you get to choose between surrendering to fear or standing firm in faith. You get to decide whether you see a challenge as a threat or as an opportunity to grow. Each time you choose the latter, your belief deepens. Life may not always reward you immediately, but the reward comes in how strong, calm, and clear you become. That inner steadiness is worth more than any external victory. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop arguing with yourself, when you stop asking if you're enough and start acting like you already are. Rising with unshakable belief means deciding, once and for all, that you will not betray yourself. You will not talk yourself out of your own greatness. You will not delay your dreams because of temporary fear. You will rise, even if your hands are trembling, because you owe it to yourself to see what's possible when you stop doubting your own power. To live this way, you must practice mindfulness. Throughout the day, notice how often you criticize yourself, how quickly you assume failure, how easily you compare. Awareness is the first step to change. When you catch yourself falling into self-doubt, pause and breathe. Replace the criticism with a question: what is this moment trying to teach me? That shift turns judgment into learning, and learning builds strength. Over time, you begin to realize that the same situations that once broke your confidence are now shaping your discipline. You will have to forgive yourself for the times you didn't believe, for the times you settled for less, stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, or walked away from your own dreams. Forgive, but don't forget. Each of those moments taught you something vital, that your spirit cannot be silenced. Self-forgiveness frees you from shame, and without shame, belief grows easily. Every morning, give yourself permission to begin again. The past is a classroom, not a prison. What matters is what you choose to do now with this day, this chance, this moment. The mind can be trained just like the body. When you feed it with discipline, gratitude, and purpose, it becomes stronger. When you feed it with fear, comparison, and excuses, it becomes weaker. Rising with belief is like mental exercise. Each morning, you repeat the same truth until it becomes a habit. I can handle this. I am capable. I trust myself. And when you truly believe it, your life begins to mirror that energy. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start to feel calm where you once felt chaos. If you ever doubt your importance, remember this: your presence makes a difference. Somewhere, someone draws strength from your courage, your kindness, or your perseverance, even if you don't realize it. When you rise with belief, you not only change your own life, you silently give permission for others to believe in themselves too. You become an example of what's possible when a person refuses to live small. You don't need everything figured out to believe in yourself. You don't need to be perfect, rich, or confident all the time. You just need to wake up each day and choose faith over fear. Even when things are uncertain, even when progress feels slow, even when no one notices, keep choosing yourself. Because self-belief isn't about outcomes, it's about direction. It's the quiet assurance that no matter what happens, you'll keep moving forward. Every morning offers you two choices: to rise in doubt or to rise in confidence. One keeps you trapped, the other sets you free. When you wake up tomorrow, don't wait for motivation, create it. Sit in silence for a moment and remind yourself that you have faced everything that was meant to break you, and you're still standing. That means you're already strong enough for what's next. The belief you're looking for has been growing in you all along. It's just waiting for you to claim it. So rise with purpose, speak to yourself with kindness. Walk through the day with the posture of someone who knows their worth. Don't rush to prove anything. Don't shrink to fit anyone's comfort. Move at your own pace, grounded in your own truth. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you'll struggle. But as long as you rise, you win. Because real success is not in never falling, it's in never losing faith in your ability to stand again. By the time the sun sets, you will have faced challenges, doubts, and distractions. But if you started your morning anchored in self-belief, none of those things can shake your foundation. The world can be unpredictable, but your inner world doesn't have to be. You decide how steady you remain, how calm you respond, and how deeply you trust your own strength. That's the meaning of unshakable belief. It's not that life stops testing you, it's that you stop surrendering your peace to every test. When tomorrow comes and you open your eyes again, remember this simple truth. You were born with everything you need to live with confidence and grace. The world may try to convince you otherwise, but your worth is not up for debate. You are allowed to rise, to rebuild, to begin again, as many times as it takes. Each sunrise is an invitation to start fresh with more wisdom, more self-respect, and more courage than the day before. And if you ever forget how strong you are, just look at all the mornings you've already survived, each one carried lessons, growth, and quiet victories. You have already proven to yourself that you can endure, adapt, and rise again. That's what unshakable belief really is, not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep rising no matter what it costs. Rise every day with unshakable belief in yourself. Not because life is easy, but because you are strong. Not because others believe in you, but because you choose to believe in yourself first. That's where your freedom begins. That's where your power lives. And that's how you become unshakable. Chapter 2. Stop chasing approval and start trusting your own voice. There comes a time when you realize that living for other people's approval is like trying to fill a bottomless cup. No matter how much you pour into it, your effort, your kindness, your achievements, it never feels enough. Someone will always want more. Someone will always have an opinion about how you should live, speak, or behave. And if you let those opinions guide your choices, you begin to lose sight of who you really are. The more you chase approval, the further you drift from your own voice. You start editing yourself, softening your truth, and shrinking your light just to be accepted by people who probably don't even see you clearly. When you depend on approval, your self-worth becomes fragile. It rises and falls with the reactions of others. A compliment lifts you, a criticism breaks you. You become addicted to reassurance, constantly scanning the faces of others for signs that you're doing enough. But here's the truth, most people never learn until they're tired and empty. Approval is temporary. You can spend your entire life trying to please everyone and still feel unseen, because what you're really searching for isn't their validation, it's your own. Trusting your own voice begins with remembering that you've always had one. Before you were taught to conform, before the world told you who to be, you had instincts. You had feelings that guided you, opinions that mattered, and dreams that felt alive. Somewhere along the way, you were made to believe that those things needed permission. Maybe someone told you that your ideas were unrealistic, or your choices were wrong, or your emotions were too much. Bit by bit, you learned to quiet yourself, to fit in, to keep the peace. But that silence came with a cost. It made you doubt your own judgment. To reclaim your inner voice, you must first sit with yourself long enough to hear it again. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It speaks through gut feelings, discomfort, curiosity, and intuition. It nudges you when something feels off and lights you up when something feels right. The problem is that most people never slow down enough to listen. They drown it out with noise, distractions, and other people's opinions. Trusting yourself means turning down the volume of the world until you can hear that quiet truth within you again. At first, it feels uncertain. You'll question whether you're making the right choices. You'll worry about disappointing others or stepping out of line. But self-trust grows stronger each time you follow your instincts and realize the world didn't collapse because you did. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you reclaim a piece of your strength. When you take a path that others don't understand, you build confidence in your ability to lead your own life. The more you act in alignment with your truth, the less you need approval to feel secure. There's freedom in not needing everyone to agree with you. It means you're finally living from the inside out, not the outside in. Approval-based living traps you in constant performance. You become whoever people want you to be. But authenticity invites peace. You no longer measure your worth by reactions. You measure it by integrity. You start asking yourself different questions, not "will they like this?" but "does this feel right for me?" That one shift changes the entire direction of your life. Sometimes people will resist your authenticity because it reminds them of their own fear of being real. They may criticize you, mock you, or withdraw. That's not your problem to fix. The moment you begin living truthfully, you'll lose a few people who preferred your silence. But you'll also attract people who see you for who you truly are, and that is worth every loss. You will notice that the relationships that remain become deeper because they're built on honesty, not performance. Trusting your own voice also means taking responsibility for your life. When you stop chasing approval, you stop blaming others for your unhappiness. You realize that no one can decide your direction for you, and that self-respect means making choices that honor your values, even when they're unpopular. It's easy to seek advice and follow what others say, but real strength lies in listening, reflecting, and then deciding based on your own wisdom. People can guide you, but no one else can walk your path. The habit of approval-seeking runs deep. It shows up subtly in over-explaining yourself, apologizing for things that don't require apology, or feeling anxious when someone is upset with you. These behaviors are learned, and they can be unlearned. The next time you notice yourself trying to earn approval, pause and ask, "What am I afraid will happen if I stop?" Most often, the fear is rejection. But when you understand that rejection doesn't define your worth, it loses its power. You start to see that being misunderstood or disliked isn't the end of the world. It's just a sign that you're being authentic. You will make mistakes. You will take risks that don't work out. You will speak truths that not everyone appreciates. But these moments are not failures. They are proof that you're alive, that you're growing, that you're living by choice instead of habit. The person who never trusts their own voice spends a lifetime waiting for permission to begin. The person who does trust it builds a life that feels honest, peaceful, and whole. Each time you choose your own voice over approval, you strengthen your self-respect. You begin to notice the difference between real support and conditional acceptance. Real support doesn't require you to be perfect. It encourages you to be genuine. Conditional acceptance only lasts as long as you meet someone else's expectations. When you can tell the difference, you stop begging for love in places that demand you shrink to fit. You start standing taller in your own truth, and that quiet confidence becomes your natural state. Trusting your voice is not about rejecting advice or ignoring others. It's about filtering what you hear through your own understanding. You listen, you reflect, but you remain the final authority on your life. This balance is what creates inner stability. You no longer swing between self-doubt and arrogance. You move with quiet assurance. You know when to take counsel and when to follow your own instincts. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from seeking approval. It comes from experience, reflection, and courage. The more you live this way, the more peace you feel. You stop defending your choices to people who don't live with their consequences. You stop seeking recognition from those who would never understand your path. You realize that your worth is not a vote, it's a fact. You were born with value, and no opinion can add or subtract from it. When that truth sinks in, you stop chasing and you start creating. You stop waiting to be chosen and you start choosing yourself. Each morning becomes an opportunity to listen more deeply to yourself. Ask what you need, what you feel, what you want to create. Trust the answers that arise, even if they're small or uncertain. Each honest answer builds your inner foundation, and when life becomes noisy again, and it will, you'll know how to return to that calm center where your voice lives. It will guide you through uncertainty, through judgment, through every storm that once would have shaken you. You cannot build a peaceful life on the unstable ground of other people's opinions. Approval will always shift, but self-trust remains steady. When you begin to trust yourself, you no longer fear disapproval. You no longer chase praise. You start doing what's right, not what's popular. And that quiet shift, living from your truth instead of reaction, becomes the foundation of lasting self-worth. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be those who think you should be more like them. But none of that matters once you learn to listen to yourself first. Because the voice within you, the one that has survived doubt, criticism, and disappointment, is the only one that truly knows your purpose. It doesn't need to shout, it just needs you to finally stop running from it. When you stop chasing approval and start trusting your own voice, you step into a kind of freedom that cannot be taken from you. You no longer live in fear of being judged. You no longer compromise your values to fit in. You move with clarity and quiet confidence, knowing that even if no one else understands your choices, they still belong to you. And that is the deepest form of respect you can give yourself, to stand by your truth, even when it stands alone. The approval you've been chasing was never the answer. The only approval you truly needed was your own. Once you give that to yourself, you become unstoppable, not because everyone agrees with you, but because you finally agree with yourself. Chapter 3. Turn every setback into proof of your inner strength. Every person faces moments when life doesn't go according to plan. You prepare, you try your best, you give your all, and still, things fall apart. It might be a failed relationship, a lost opportunity, or a dream that slipped through your hands despite every effort. In those moments, it's easy to believe something is wrong with you, to see yourself as unlucky or defeated. But what separates those who crumble from those who rise is not the absence of pain, it's how they use it. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who had smooth paths. They're the ones who turned their setbacks into evidence of their power. A setback is not the end of your story. It's an invitation to grow in ways comfort never could. It forces you to pause, to reflect, and to meet yourself on a deeper level. You discover what you're really made of when things don't go your way. When you lose what you thought you couldn't live without, you learn what truly matters. When something breaks your heart, you find out that your spirit can heal. Setbacks are not punishments. They're mirrors showing you where your strength lives. In the beginning, it doesn't feel that way. When disappointment hits, it stings. Your mind spins with questions: why did this happen? What did I do wrong? How do I fix it? You might even replay events, wishing you could change them. But the truth is, resistance keeps you stuck. The moment you accept that what happened cannot be undone, your power returns. Acceptance is not surrender, it's acknowledgement. It's saying, this happened, and I can learn from it. That one decision turns pain into progress. Every time you overcome something difficult, your confidence quietly grows. You begin to realize that no matter what life throws your way, you can handle it. You may not control every outcome, but you control how you show up in the face of challenge. That's where strength is built, not in winning every battle, but in standing firm when nothing goes your way. When you refuse to give up, you show yourself that your resilience is greater than your circumstances. The mind loves comfort, but growth demands discomfort. Every setback strips away what is false, exposing what is real. It shows you your limits, but also your potential. It reveals the habits that hold you back and the beliefs that no longer serve you. Instead of asking, why me? Start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That shift changes everything. Suddenly, pain becomes a teacher, not a tormentor. Every obstacle begins to carry wisdom you couldn't see before. You may not realize it now, but the moments that broke you once will become the stories that strengthen you later. You will look back and see that the rejection protected you from something that wasn't meant for you, that the delay gave you time to prepare, that the loss forced you to find deeper meaning. Time has a way of revealing the purpose behind every setback, but you don't have to wait for years to start learning. You can choose to learn while you're still in it, by staying calm, by observing yourself, by finding what you can still control and doing it with intention. Resilience isn't about pretending everything is fine, it's about continuing even when it's not. You don't have to smile through pain or ignore what hurts. You just have to refuse to let it define you. Cry if you need to, rest if you must, but when you rise again, and you will do it with the knowledge that every scar tells a story of survival. You've made it through things you once thought you couldn't, and that alone proves your strength. Setbacks are powerful because they strip away illusion. They show you who truly supports you, what truly motivates you, and how deeply you can trust yourself. Some people disappear when you fall, while others stand by you quietly. That clarity is a gift. You also see what kind of person you are when everything falls apart. Do you blame others, or do you take responsibility and rebuild? The answer to that question determines how far you'll go in life. When you face something difficult, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it long enough to understand what it's showing you. Maybe it's teaching you patience, or humility, or the value of persistence. Maybe it's pushing you to develop emotional maturity to stay steady when others would panic. Each lesson strengthens your character, and character is what keeps you steady when success eventually returns. Think about every time you've recovered from something you thought would break you. You didn't realize it then, but every struggle trained your resilience. Each disappointment was like a weight added to your strength. The more you carried, the stronger you became. You learned to adapt, to think clearly under pressure, to keep moving even when the path wasn't visible. These are skills no one can teach in comfort. They are earned in difficulty. When you stop seeing setbacks as failures and start viewing them as feedback, your entire perspective changes. You understand that a closed door doesn't mean the end. It might mean redirection. What didn't work wasn't wasted time, it was experience. Every no refined your approach. Every delay built your patience. Every mistake expanded your understanding. You start appreciating the value of the journey, not just the destination. People often give up too soon because they expect progress to be linear. But growth rarely moves in straight lines. It's messy, unpredictable, and filled with detours. The ones who succeed are not those who never fall, they're the ones who learn to stand up quickly. Every time you rise after a fall, you prove to yourself that you're more capable than you thought. And the more times you rise, the less fear you have of falling again. There's a quiet dignity in endurance. The kind that doesn't need to be seen or praised. You build it in silence, through private battles that no one else knows about. It's in showing up to work when your heart is heavy. It's in trying again after failure. It's in forgiving yourself when you could easily give up. Those moments are where real power lives. That's how you turn setbacks into strength, by refusing to let them close your heart or steal your will. When you face a difficult season, remind yourself that it's temporary. Nothing lasts forever, not joy, not pain. The key is to keep moving while it lasts. Each day, you get up and take one small step forward. You shift your energy from helplessness to progress. Even slow progress is still movement. You may not feel strong in the moment, but strength doesn't always feel like power. It often feels like persistence. There's beauty in resilience because it's built on truth. No pretending, no illusions, just raw courage. The courage to start over when it's hard, to stay patient when nothing makes sense, to trust that better days will come. When you reach that point, setbacks lose their ability to destroy you. They become reminders of what you've already overcome. You stop asking for an easy life and start asking for the strength to handle the life you have. Eventually, you begin to thank your setbacks. You realize they shaped your wisdom, deepened your empathy, and clarified your purpose. They made you aware of your own power. Without those hard moments, you would have never known how strong, intelligent, and capable you really are. The lessons you carry from them become your armor. When new challenges come, and they will, you'll face them differently, not with fear, but with quiet assurance. I've been through worse. I can handle this too. That's what it means to turn every setback into proof of your inner strength. It's not about pretending life is easy or ignoring pain. It's about trusting that every challenge adds to your power. It's about knowing that life's hardest moments aren't here to break you, they're here to build you. You become unshakable not because life stops testing you, but because you no longer see those tests as threats. You see them as confirmation that you've already grown beyond who you once were. So when life knocks you down again, and it will remember who you are, remember what you've survived, what you've learned, and what you're capable of. Stand up, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Move forward, not with fear, but with faith in your own resilience. Every setback carries a lesson. Every lesson builds your character, and every piece of your character becomes part of your strength. You don't have to wait for life to get easier, you just have to get stronger. And that strength has always been inside you, waiting for moments like these to prove it. Chapter 4. Walk away from disrespect and stand tall in your worth. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that not everyone deserves access to their peace. Some people will speak to you as if your feelings don't matter, treat your kindness like it's weakness, and cross boundaries as if they were invisible. You might try to explain yourself, justify your intentions, or prove your value, but the truth is, respect cannot be earned by begging. It's something you either receive willingly or walk away from. Knowing when to walk away from disrespect is not arrogance, it's self-preservation. It's choosing to protect your dignity instead of trying to convince someone else to see it. Disrespect wears many masks. Sometimes it's loud insults, mockery, or criticism disguised as jokes. Other times it's quiet, dismissive behavior, broken promises, or subtle manipulation that leaves you questioning your worth. It can come from anyone, family, friends, co-workers, or even people you love deeply. And that's what makes it painful. You expect kindness from those close to you, but when they show you otherwise, it cuts deeper than you'd like to admit. Still, your job is not to tolerate it, it's to recognize it for what it is and respond with strength, not silence. Standing tall in your worth begins with understanding that how people treat you reflects their character, not your value. You can be honest, loyal, and loving, and still be disrespected by those who have not learned to value those traits. The moment you internalize their behavior as your fault, you give away your power. You start questioning your worth instead of questioning why you keep tolerating less than you deserve. It's not your responsibility to fix someone's lack of respect. It's your responsibility to protect your self-respect. Walking away doesn't always mean leaving physically right away. Sometimes it begins with emotional detachment when you stop, explaining yourself to someone who doesn't care to understand, when you stop overextending yourself for people who never meet you halfway, when you stop giving energy to conversations that only drain your spirit. That's the quiet strength of walking away, knowing that you don't need closure, revenge, or validation. You just need peace. There's a powerful kind of confidence that comes when you realize you don't have to argue with disrespect. You don't have to prove your value to someone who's determined not to see it. Silence can be a boundary too. Choosing not to engage with people who thrive on chaos doesn't make you weak. It shows you're wise enough to protect your emotional energy. When you know who you are, you stop explaining it to those committed to misunderstanding you. Too often, people tolerate disrespect because they fear being alone. They think walking away means losing something important, but staying where you're not valued costs you something, greater your self-esteem. When you allow disrespect, you teach others how to treat you. Each time you make excuses for someone's behavior, you lower the standard of what you believe you deserve. The more you do it, the harder it becomes to see your own worth clearly. Respect starts with you. If you don't demand it, no one else will. Standing tall in your worth requires courage, the courage to face discomfort, to say no, and to walk away from what feels familiar but unhealthy. Many people confuse peace with avoidance, but real peace often requires confrontation. It means drawing a line and saying, "This is not acceptable," even if your voice trembles when you say it. It means choosing your self-respect over temporary approval. It's one of the hardest decisions you'll ever make, but it's also one of the most liberating. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply remove yourself. No arguments, no explanations, just distance. Not every disrespect deserves a reaction. When you detach with dignity, you send a clear message. My energy is not available for anything beneath my standards. That quiet decision can change your entire life because it frees you from trying to change people who don't want to change. You stop chasing maturity in those who choose immaturity, and instead, you redirect that energy into your own growth. It takes time to unlearn the belief that love means tolerance. It doesn't. Love without respect becomes a trap. It keeps you in cycles of emotional imbalance, hoping someone will treat you better if you keep giving more. But no amount of giving can change someone who refuses to grow. The healthiest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away the moment you recognize a pattern of disrespect. You don't need to wait for a breaking point. You can decide, calmly and quietly, that you've had enough. Standing tall in your worth doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring for yourself too. You stop trying to earn what should have been freely given. You stop explaining your boundaries to people who benefit from crossing them. You stop lowering your standards just to keep someone close. The more you honor your worth, the more peace you'll attract. People who genuinely respect you will never ask you to compromise your dignity to prove your love. There will be times when walking away breaks your heart. It might be from a person you thought would always be there, a job you worked hard for, or a situation that once felt like home. But you cannot heal in places that constantly hurt you. Pain might be part of growth, but disrespect should never be. The moment you walk away, you begin the process of reclaiming yourself. You start remembering who you were before you allowed others to define you. That is not loss, it's rediscovery. Sometimes, walking away doesn't look dramatic. It's not about slamming doors or grand gestures. It's in small, intentional choices. Replying less, detaching emotionally, redirecting your energy toward things that make you stronger. It's in waking up one morning and realizing you no longer have the need to prove yourself to anyone. That quiet inner shift is the mark of true growth. It's when peace becomes more important than being understood. To stand tall in your worth, you must also forgive yourself for the times you stayed too long. You didn't know better then. You were hoping things would change, believing the best in others, or afraid of being judged for leaving. Forgive yourself for all the times you settled for less than you deserved. That forgiveness is what opens the door to healing. It allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of regret. Every experience taught you something valuable about what you will and will not accept again. When you start living with self-respect, your energy changes. You stop attracting chaos because you no longer entertain it. You start drawing people who recognize your boundaries and meet you at your level. Your silence becomes strength. Your presence becomes peace. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It's built through small acts of self-assertion every day. Saying no when you mean no. Speaking truthfully even if it's uncomfortable. Leaving when someone continues to cross lines. Each act reinforces the truth. You are enough, and you deserve respect. People who genuinely care about you will never make you choose between your self-respect and their approval. They will listen, understand, and adjust because they value your presence. Those who don't will fall away naturally, and though it may hurt, it's a sign of alignment. You're no longer a match for what disrespects your peace. The emptiness that follows is temporary. The self-respect that grows from it lasts forever. Life becomes lighter when you no longer tolerate what drains you. You stop being reactive to every insult or judgment because you know it doesn't define you. You learn that not every situation deserves a response, and not every person deserves access to your attention. That emotional restraint is strength. You become selective with your energy, careful with your words, and peaceful in your actions. That's what standing tall in your worth looks like: quiet confidence rooted in clarity. There is no shame in walking away from what doesn't honor you. You are not weak for leaving. You are strong for refusing to stay where your spirit is diminished. Standing tall in your worth doesn't mean being cold or detached. It means knowing that love and respect must exist together. Without respect, even the warmest connection becomes toxic. You owe it to yourself to choose peace over chaos, dignity over approval, and self-worth over fear. One day, you'll look back at the moments when you chose to walk away and realize they were turning points. Each one led you closer to your true self. You'll see that you never lost anything essential. You simply let go of what was never aligned with your growth. That's the power of self-respect. It may cost you temporary comfort, but it rewards you with lasting freedom. To walk away from disrespect is to declare that your soul is no longer available for mistreatment. To stand tall in your worth is to live each day knowing that you don't need anyone's validation to feel valuable. Your worth is not negotiable. It is steady, unshaken, and whole whether others recognize it or not. And the moment you begin to live from that truth, life starts to mirror it back to you in every way that matters. Chapter 5. Master your emotions and never let anger own you. There's a certain power that comes from learning to stay calm when everything around you tries to pull you into chaos. When you master your emotions, you stop being controlled by every insult, mistake, or frustration that crosses your path. You stop reacting out of impulse and start responding out of clarity. Anger may still rise, but it no longer owns you. It becomes a signal instead of a weapon. You begin to see it not as something to suppress, but as something to understand and redirect. That shift from reaction to awareness is what separates emotional strength from emotional chaos. Anger is one of the most natural human responses. It appears when boundaries are crossed, when unfairness strikes, or when life feels out of your control. But the problem isn't anger itself. It's what happens when anger becomes the driver instead of the messenger. When you act while consumed by it, you often create damage that lasts longer than the moment that triggered it. Words are said that cannot be unsaid, relationships are strained, and peace is traded for the temporary satisfaction of being right. To master your emotions is to refuse to be a prisoner of such moments. It's choosing inner control over external reaction. You've likely met people who live at the mercy of their emotions. One small inconvenience, one disagreement, and they lose their balance completely. They carry resentment, argue over every detail, and replay old anger as if it were still happening. What they don't realize is that anger drains them far more than the situation itself ever could. It consumes energy, blinds judgment, and poisons peace of mind. True strength is not in how loudly you can express your anger, but in how calmly you can manage it without letting it distort your decisions. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean you ignore what you feel. It means you observe your emotions without letting them decide your behavior. When you feel anger rising, pause. Breathe before you act. That small moment of stillness gives your mind time to catch up with your feelings. It's in that pause that wisdom lives. Anger demands reaction. Control gives you choice. The longer you practice that pause, the stronger your emotional discipline becomes. Eventually, your calm becomes your default, not your exception. You can't stop people from saying or doing things that upset you, but you can decide what deserves your energy. Every time you respond with patience instead of aggression, you strengthen your inner authority. You remind yourself that no one's behavior has the power to dictate your peace. People can provoke you, but they can't control you unless you hand them that power. Once you understand that, their words lose their grip on your emotions. You see them as reflections of their own state, not of your worth. Anger often disguises deeper feelings: hurt, disappointment, or fear. When you slow down enough to look beneath it, you begin to understand yourself better. You learn what triggers you, what boundaries you need, and where you still have healing to do. That self-awareness transforms anger into information. Instead of fighting it, you start using it as a guide. Each time you manage to stay centered when you once would have exploded, you prove to yourself that you've grown. Emotional mastery isn't about never feeling anger. It's about never letting anger dictate your identity. There's a false idea that calmness is weakness, that if you don't fight back, you're being walked over. But calmness is not surrender, it's control. It's refusing to let someone else drag you into their chaos. When you remain composed in the face of provocation, you show that your peace is not negotiable. You communicate strength without having to raise your voice. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful one, the person who can stay steady when others lose. Control is the one who truly holds the power. When anger controls you, it pushes you to act in ways that betray your own values. You say things you regret, make decisions based on pride, or react to prove a point rather than solve a problem. Once the emotion fades, you're left with consequences that don't match your intentions. But when you control anger, you start making choices based on clarity. You still address what's wrong, but you do it from a place of composure and purpose. People may underestimate quiet strength, but it's the kind that lasts. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that not every situation deserves a reaction. Some people provoke you intentionally to see if they can control your emotions. The moment you react, you give them what they want. The way you win those battles is through restraint. When you stay calm, you take away their power. When you walk away instead of engaging, you maintain your dignity. Every act of emotional discipline is a double life. Victory small, invisible, but deeply transformative. To master your emotions, you must become familiar with your triggers. Notice what consistently frustrates or offends you. Is it disrespect, lack of control, or being misunderstood? Once you identify those patterns, you can prepare for them. You can build new responses before the moment arrives. This is how emotional maturity is built, not by suppressing emotions, but by planning your reactions with wisdom. You become proactive instead of reactive. You lead yourself instead of being led by emotion. There's a sense of freedom that comes when you realize you don't owe anyone a reaction. You can acknowledge what they say, understand it, and still choose peace. You can disagree without hostility, and you can walk away without bitterness. That level of calm doesn't come overnight, it's built through daily practice. Every time you choose patience over rage, silence over argument, understanding over defensiveness, you add another layer of control to your foundation. Anger may feel powerful in the moment, but it often leaves you feeling powerless afterward. The short burst of energy fades, replaced by guilt or exhaustion. Real power is steady, it doesn't need to explode to make an impact. It's the ability to respond from a centered place no matter how strong the storm around you gets. When you master that, people start noticing. They stop seeing you as someone easily provoked and start respecting you as someone grounded and wise. Your emotions are meant to serve you, not rule you. Each one carries information about what you value and what boundaries matter to you. When you understand them, you can use them as tools. Anger can motivate action. When channeled correctly, it can push you to make changes, set limits, and stand up for yourself. But it should always be directed with purpose, not released without control. Mastery means knowing when to act and when to let go. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You may look back and remember times you let anger get the best of you, words spoken, bridges burned, peace lost. But guilt doesn't heal anything, awareness does. The fact that you regret those moments means you've grown beyond them. Learn the lesson, apply it, and move forward. Every moment of awareness is a chance to practice a new kind of strength, the kind that values self-control over emotional release. The world around you will constantly test your patience. There will be delays, rude people, unfair situations, and days when nothing seems to go right. But how you handle those moments defines your inner stability. The more you practice staying calm in small irritations, the easier it becomes to stay composed in larger conflicts. Emotional discipline is built in ordinary moments, when you choose to breathe instead of lash out, when you choose to pause instead of react. Anger owns people who never learned how to listen to it. It keeps them trapped in cycles of defensiveness and pain. But once you understand that you are not your emotions, you gain control. You can feel anger rise and still choose not to let it define your behavior. That awareness makes you untouchable. People can provoke you, life can challenge you, but nothing can pull you away from your inner balance. Mastering your emotions doesn't mean you stop feeling deeply. It means you feel everything fully without losing yourself in it. It means you can experience frustration and still act with integrity. You can experience sadness and still move forward. You can experience anger and still choose peace. That level of strength doesn't shout, it stands quietly, steady as a mountain, while everything else passes by. And that's the essence of true power, to remain calm, aware, and in control, no matter the circumstance. Anger may knock on your door, but you decide whether it enters. Life will always present moments that test your patience, but emotional mastery ensures that those moments never steal your peace. When you can stand firm in that calmness, you become your own authority, steady, composed, and completely free from the chaos of reaction. Chapter 6. Build self-respect by keeping your word, no matter what. There's a quiet power that comes from doing what you say you'll do. It doesn't need applause or recognition. It doesn't seek validation or attention. It's a personal promise between you and yourself. When you keep your word, you build something deeper than confidence. You build self-respect. Every time you follow through, you remind yourself that your word means something, that you can be trusted, and that you are the kind of person who stands behind your own intentions. That's how strong character is formed, not through big declarations, but through small, consistent acts of integrity. Breaking promises to yourself might seem harmless at first. You say you'll start tomorrow, you promise you'll finish later, and you convince yourself it's no big deal. But each time you do that, something inside you weakens. You teach your mind that your own words carry no weight. Over time, that lack of follow-through chips away at your confidence. You stop believing in your own potential because you've proven to yourself, again and again, that you can't rely on your own commitments. Self-respect begins to fade, not because others disrespected you, but because you disrespected your own word. Keeping your word is not about perfection, it's about accountability. It means showing up when you said you would, even when the excitement has worn off. It means finishing what you started, even when it's inconvenient. It's about building a personal reputation with yourself, a reputation that says, if I say it, I'll do it. When you live this way, your inner voice changes. Instead of doubt, you hear certainty. Instead of guilt, you feel pride. You don't need to hype yourself up to believe in your dreams because you've already proven, through action, that you can follow through. People often talk about self-respect as if it's something that magically appears when you love yourself enough. But love alone isn't enough. Respect is earned, even from yourself. You earn it by doing hard things when you'd rather take the easy route. You earn it by honoring commitments when no one is watching. You earn it by telling the truth even when it costs you something. Every decision that aligns with your integrity adds to your sense of worth. And the stronger that foundation becomes, the less you need external validation. Keeping your word also means speaking honestly from the beginning. Don't make promises you can't keep just to please others. Don't commit to things you have no intention of following through on. Integrity begins before the promise is made. When you speak, let your words carry meaning. When you commit, mean it. The people who are truly respected in life are not those who promise the most. They're the ones whose words carry reliability. And that reliability begins within. There will be times when keeping your word feels impossible. Fatigue sets in, plans change, motivation fades. But these are the moments that define you. It's easy to stay consistent when things go smoothly. True discipline shows up when it's inconvenient. When you push through resistance and deliver on what you said you would, even in discomfort, you build mental endurance. You prove to yourself that your actions are not dictated by mood or circumstance, they're guided by principle. That's how character is strengthened, one decision at a time. When you consistently honor your commitments, you stop overthinking. You no longer question whether you can trust yourself, because your actions have already answered that. You stop doubting your ability to follow through, because you've seen proof of it. That self-trust becomes one of the most valuable things you possess. It gives you stability when life becomes uncertain. You don't need constant motivation because discipline replaces it. You know that you'll show up regardless of how you feel. That's real freedom. You'll notice that when you keep your promises to yourself, your standards rise naturally. You begin to hold yourself to a higher level of honesty, reliability, and purpose. You stop entertaining excuses, both your own and others. You recognize that your time, energy, and word have value. You no longer waste them on things or people that drain your integrity. When your words and actions align, everything around you begins to align too. Your relationships improve because people can sense your authenticity. Your goals become clearer because your mind is uncluttered by self-doubt. Keeping your word also means forgiving yourself when you fall short, but not letting yourself off the hook. There's a difference between compassion and complacency. Everyone slips sometimes, but what matters is how you respond afterward. Instead of making excuses, take ownership. Ask yourself why you broke that promise, what went wrong, and what you can do differently next time. Responsibility is not about blame, it's about growth. Each mistake becomes a lesson that refines your discipline. There's a special kind of strength in being dependable. When you're the kind of person who keeps your word, people trust you. But more importantly, you trust you. That's where real confidence comes from. Not from praise, not from external success, but from knowing that when you say you'll do something, you mean it. Even the smallest follow-through, waking up on time, completing a task, keeping a promise, reinforces that strength. And over time, that consistency turns into identity. You no longer have to try to be disciplined, you simply are. Keeping your word also requires balance. Sometimes, you must know when to say no before you commit. It's better to decline something honestly than to agree and later fail to follow through. Many people overcommit because they fear disappointing others, but breaking your word is far more damaging to both your self-respect and your relationships. Learning to say no is a form of respect for yourself and those around you. It shows that you value truth over appeasement, sincerity over pretense. Self-respect built on integrity is not loud or boastful. It's quiet, calm, and steady. It doesn't need recognition because it's self-sustained. When your actions match your words, you walk differently. You carry yourself with assurance. You don't feel the need to prove your worth because you live in alignment with it. This inner harmony is rare in a world where many speak more than they do. It becomes your advantage, the thing that keeps you grounded while others chase appearances. You'll start noticing that people respond differently to you when your words consistently hold truth. They'll listen more closely, trust more deeply, and rely on your presence with confidence. But the most important response comes from within. Each day, when you go to sleep knowing you honored your commitments, you rest easier. Your conscience stays clean, your confidence stays intact, and your sense of peace grows stronger. It's not always grand commitments that matter most. It's the small, everyday promises that shape your self-image. Getting up when you said you would, finishing what you started, following through on the goals you set quietly. These actions build layers of strength that no one can take from you. They become your internal proof that you are dependable. And once you see yourself that way, the world starts to treat you accordingly. Integrity doesn't need an audience. You could keep your word when no one else knows and still grow more powerful from it. Because the point isn't for others to see, it's for you to know. Every time you follow through, you cast a vote for the person you're becoming. Each promise kept, no matter how small, moves you closer to your highest potential. That's what self-respect truly is, the knowledge that you can rely on yourself completely. Eventually, keeping your word stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like identity. It becomes part of who you are, a natural rhythm of honesty and reliability. When you live this way, you don't chase respect, you command it, not through force, but through consistency. People see it in the way you move, the way you speak, and the way you deliver. You become a person of integrity not by trying to impress anyone, but by choosing truth every single day. To build self-respect by keeping your word is to live with honor. It's to treat your commitments as sacred, your words as promises, and your actions as reflections of your values. Life becomes simpler when you live this way. You no longer waste time justifying yourself. You no longer question your direction. You trust yourself completely because you've earned that trust through action. That's how true self-respect is built quietly, consistently, and completely within your control. Chapter 7. Silence self-doubt by taking bold action every single day. Doubt doesn't shout, it whispers. It creeps in quietly, questioning your every move, convincing you that maybe you're not ready, maybe you're not capable, maybe you should wait until the timing feels perfect. But if you listen too long, you'll notice something painful. That perfect moment never arrives. The more you wait, the louder the doubt grows. It feeds on hesitation. It multiplies in inaction. The only way to silence it is not through thinking or convincing, it's through movement. Bold, deliberate, consistent action cuts through self-doubt like light through fog. You can't think your way out of uncertainty, but you can act your way out of it. Every person carries self-doubt, even the most confident ones. The difference lies in what they do with it. Some people let it hold them hostage, keeping their potential locked behind fear. Others acknowledge it, feel it fully, and still move forward anyway. That's the essence of bold action. It's not recklessness, it's courage in motion. It's understanding that fear will always have a voice, but it doesn't deserve control over your choices. You silence doubt not by waiting for confidence to appear, but by proving to yourself, through daily action, that you can handle more than you think. Each time you take a bold step, no matter how small, you build evidence against your own insecurity. Every action becomes a vote for your capability. When you do the things you once avoided, when you step into discomfort instead of running from it, your brain begins to rewrite the story it's been telling you. You start replacing the old narrative of, "I can't," with a new one. I just did. Over time, those small acts compound into unshakable confidence, not because you never doubted, but because you refuse to let doubt decide your life. Bold action doesn't have to mean something grand or dramatic. It means doing the thing that feels uncomfortable but necessary. It's sending that message, starting that project, speaking your truth, applying for that opportunity, or showing up when it would be easier to hide. These are the quiet, unglamorous acts of courage that build a strong mind. Every time you choose forward motion, you tell your fear that it doesn't control the direction anymore. And with each step, that voice of hesitation grows weaker. Self-doubt thrives on inaction because it needs time to grow. The more you hesitate, the more reasons your mind creates to stop you. It will point out every possible flaw, every potential failure, every reason you shouldn't try. That's its nature. It's protective, but it's also deceptive. It tries to keep you safe, but in doing so, it also keeps you small. The cure is momentum. Once you begin, once you commit to movement, your focus shifts. The energy you once spent on fear is replaced by progress. Action interrupts anxiety in a way that thinking never can. When you act boldly, you learn something invaluable. You realize that fear doesn't disappear before action, it dissolves after it. You understand that confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. Every bold move you make teaches your nervous system that you can survive uncertainty. You stop needing everything to feel right before you start. You stop waiting for validation or a clear path. You begin to trust that clarity will come through movement, not before it. And it always does. Many people waste years waiting to feel ready, but readiness is a lie that self-doubt tells to keep you still. You don't become ready by preparing endlessly, you become ready by beginning. The first time you take a step towards something unfamiliar, it feels shaky. But the second time, it feels possible. The third time, it feels natural. Repetition kills fear. The more you act, the less control hesitation has over you. You build strength not by thinking about courage, but by living. Taking bold action doesn't mean you won't fail. It means you'll stop seeing failure as a reason to quit. You'll start seeing it as proof that you're trying, that you're learning, that you're in motion. Every mistake becomes data, not defeat. When you approach life this way, you stop needing reassurance. You develop quiet faith in yourself, the kind that doesn't vanish with one setback. Because every action, even the ones that don't go as planned, is still progress. You can't lose when you're learning. There's something liberating about realizing that you don't need permission to move forward. You don't need to be fearless, you just need to start. Self-doubt only has power over the inactive. Once you begin, it loses its grip. You start noticing how many of your fears were illusions constructed by overthinking and strengthened by avoidance. The moment you face them through consistent action, they lose their shape. What once looked impossible becomes manageable. What once terrified you becomes routine. Bold action also builds integrity with yourself. Every time you do what you said you'd do, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your inner trust. You begin to believe in your own word because your actions keep proving it. Doubt has no place in a mind that trusts itself. That trust is not built through talk, it's earned through effort. You silence the question, "Can I?" by answering it with, "Watch me." And each time you do, the voice of doubt fades a little more into the background. You don't overcome self-doubt by pretending it's not there. You overcome it by acting in spite of it, by waking up and doing the work anyway, by stepping into rooms where you feel out of place, by speaking when your voice shakes, by trying again when you'd rather retreat. Confidence doesn't grow in comfort, it grows in exposure. Every uncomfortable situation you face becomes a training ground for resilience. You realize that discomfort is not danger, It's simply the stretch that growth requires. Some days, bold action will look small. Maybe it's taking the first step on a task you've been putting off. Maybe it's having a difficult conversation. Maybe it's showing up for yourself when motivation is gone. But these moments matter more than the big leaps. They build your foundation. The more you keep pushing forward, the stronger that foundation becomes. Doubt may still whisper from time to time, but it can't shake you anymore. You've built too much evidence against it. You'll start to notice that life rewards motion. Opportunities appear not because you waited, but because you acted. People begin to respect you not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. The results you once dreamed about start to appear naturally, not from wishful thinking, but from disciplined movement. That's the paradox of progress. The more you act, the less you worry, because your focus shifts from imagining to experiencing. Bold action also creates peace. It sounds contradictory, but it's true. When you move decisively, you eliminate the noise of uncertainty. You stop battling yourself internally. You know that no matter how things turn out, you've done your part. That peace comes from knowing you're no longer stuck in hesitation. Even if the results take time, you feel grounded because you're in motion. Self-doubt can't survive long in a mind that's focused on progress. Sometimes the hardest part of action is the first step. The mind invents endless excuses. It's not the right time. You're not ready. It's too risky. But the first step is where everything changes. Once you move, even slightly, your energy shifts. You realize that fear doesn't stop you, it only delays you. The first act of courage breaks the spell of doubt. After that, every step becomes easier. You don't have to take massive leaps every day. Consistent small actions will carry you further than bursts of temporary motivation. Over time, bold action becomes your natural rhythm. You no longer wait for things to feel easy. You expect discomfort and move through it anyway. You stop analyzing your fears and start challenging them directly. You start noticing how much lighter life feels when you stop overthinking and start doing. Doubt may visit, but it no longer stays. You've trained yourself to respond to it with motion, not paralysis. Silencing self-doubt doesn't mean you'll never feel uncertain again. It means uncertainty will no longer stop you. You'll still have moments of hesitation, but you'll act anyway. You'll still feel fear, but you'll move through it. You'll still have setbacks, but you'll rise faster, because action is your anchor. It grounds you in what's real, not in what's imagined. It reminds you that progress is always one decision away. When you live this way, your life begins to change quietly but dramatically. You start seeing yourself differently, not as someone who needs confidence to act, but as someone who acts and therefore becomes confident. That's how self-doubt is silenced, not by wishing it away, but by proving it wrong every single day. Each bold step you take is a statement of self-belief. Each action, no matter how small, is a declaration that fear will not define you. And when you live like that long enough, you stop needing to silence doubt at all, because your life itself becomes the evidence that you were capable all along. Chapter 8. Protect your peace like your life depends on it. Peace is not found, it's built. It's not something that appears when life becomes easy, it's something you protect when life becomes hard. The world will always be loud, demanding, and full of distractions. People will pull at your energy, circumstances will test your patience, and your own thoughts will sometimes turn against you. If you don't learn to protect your peace intentionally, the world will take it from you without hesitation. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's survival. It's the foundation that allows you to think clearly, live with integrity, and stay grounded in a world that thrives on chaos. There comes a time when you realize that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every noise deserves your attention. Peace begins when you stop giving energy to what doesn't align with your well-being. You can't control everything around you, but you can control what you allow to stay within you. Protecting your peace means understanding that your inner world is your responsibility. You don't owe anyone constant access to your mind, your emotions, or your time. You owe yourself calm, clarity, and the right to live with intention. Most people lose their peace not because of major disasters, but because of daily neglect. They say yes when they mean no. They stay in conversations that drain them. They consume negativity through endless scrolling, and they let every small irritation steal their mood. Each act of self-abandonment chips away at their balance. Protecting your peace requires discipline. It means learning to pause before reacting, to think before engaging, and to choose silence over arguments that lead nowhere. It's a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Peace doesn't mean avoiding life or pretending that pain doesn't exist. It means learning how to stay centered in the middle of life's unpredictability. It's the ability to hold calm inside you while everything outside is uncertain. This kind of peace doesn't come from running away. It comes from strengthening your emotional boundaries. You stop trying to control people or outcomes, and instead, you control how you respond. You learn that peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of self-control. Protecting your peace starts with what you allow into your space. Be selective with what you watch, read, and listen to. Your environment shapes your mind, and your mind shapes your emotions. If you constantly feed your thoughts with negativity, gossip, or fear, your peace will naturally deteriorate. But when you choose stillness, gratitude, and purpose, your energy shifts. You begin to think more clearly and react less impulsively. Every small choice, what you consume, who you speak to, where you spend your time, either protects your peace or drains it. You must also learn to distance yourself from people who thrive on conflict. Some people are addicted to drama, and no matter how much you reason with them, they'll find ways to create chaos. The moment you sense that pattern, detach without guilt. You don't owe anyone endless explanations for choosing calmness over conflict. The most peaceful people in the world aren't the ones who avoid confrontation. They're the ones who don't entertain unnecessary chaos. Your silence is not weakness, it's a shield. Protecting your peace also means mastering your emotional reactions. Not every situation deserves your outrage, and not every comment requires a response. The ability to remain calm when others are trying to provoke you is one of the highest forms of strength. When you stop reacting to every disturbance, you start conserving your energy for what truly matters. You realize that peace is a form of power. It gives you clarity to see situations for what they are, not for what your emotions paint them to be. There will be times when protecting your peace means walking away. It might be from relationships that no longer grow you, jobs that drain your spirit, or conversations that leave you empty. Leaving doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise enough to know your limits. Your peace is too valuable to be constantly sacrificed at the altar of pleasing others. You can love people and still choose distance. You can care deeply and still choose yourself. True peace comes when you learn to walk away without anger, carrying only understanding and self-respect. Boundaries are the fences that protect your inner garden. Without them, your peace becomes public property. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out, it's about deciding what you allow in. It's saying, "This is my emotional space, and I decide what belongs here." You'll notice that the moment you start enforcing those limits, some people will resist. That's because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. But don't let their discomfort make you question your decision. The people who genuinely respect you will adapt. The ones who don't were never meant to stay. Protecting your peace also requires slowing down. The world glorifies speed, productivity, and constant activity, but your mind needs stillness to stay healthy. When you move too fast, you stop hearing your own voice. Peace comes when you make time for quiet reflection, moments where you breathe, detach from noise, and reconnect with yourself. Whether it's a few minutes of silence in the morning or a walk in nature, that stillness resets your nervous system. It reminds you that you are not your worries, not your tasks, not your fears. You are the calm observer behind them. There's a simple truth about peace. It's not found in the future, it's practiced in the present. You can't wait for life to settle down to feel calm. You create peace by the way you live today, how you speak to yourself, how you manage your time, how you handle setbacks. Each small choice is a thread in the fabric of your inner world. The more intentional you are with those choices, the stronger that fabric becomes. Even when life gets difficult, it won't tear easily because it's been woven with care. Protecting your peace sometimes means disappointing people. Not everyone will understand your boundaries or your need for solitude. Some will take your silence personally, thinking you've changed. In truth, you have changed, you've evolved. You've realized that your energy is sacred, that you cannot keep giving from an empty well. Those who truly value you will see that your peace benefits them too, because a calm mind creates more genuine love, patience, and clarity in every relationship. One of the most underrated parts of peace is learning to let go of what you can't control. The more you cling to outcomes, the more restless you become. Life rarely unfolds according to plan, and the sooner you accept that, the lighter you feel. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop suffering over what's beyond your reach. You give your best and release the rest. That's how peace grows, by trusting that not everything needs your interference. Protecting your peace also means being kind to yourself. Many people lose their inner calm not because of others, but because of their own self-criticism. They replay mistakes, dwell on regrets, and hold themselves to impossible standards. You can't be at peace if you're constantly at war with yourself. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love, with patience, forgiveness, and understanding. Growth doesn't happen through punishment, it happens through compassion. When you forgive yourself, peace naturally follows. As you protect your peace, you begin to see how much of your stress was optional. You realize that most arguments didn't need to happen, most worries didn't need to be entertained, and most people's opinions didn't need to matter. You see that calmness was always within reach, you just had to stop giving it away so easily. The more you value it, the more life rewards you with clarity, stability, and quiet strength. Peace doesn't make you detached from the world, it makes you more effective in it. When your mind is calm, your decisions improve. When your emotions are balanced, your relationships thrive. When your energy is stable, your creativity and focus expand. Everything you do improves when you protect your peace first. That's why it's not just a personal choice, it's a necessity. Your life depends on it, because your peace is what keeps your mind sharp, your body healthy, and your spirit alive. The world may not slow down, but you can. You can choose to live with presence, to value silence, to disengage from meaningless noise, and to center your life around inner stability. When you protect your peace, you stop chasing chaos disguised as excitement. You start craving simplicity, balance, and authenticity. And in that space of calmness, you begin to see life more clearly, not as something you need to control, but as something you can experience fully without losing yourself. Your peace is your power. Guard it with awareness, nurture it with boundaries, defend it with choices that honor your well-being. Once you realize how precious it is, you'll never trade it again for approval, attention, or temporary comfort. You'll understand that peace is not a reward, it's your natural state, waiting to return the moment you stop giving it away. And when you start protecting it like your life depends on it, you'll finally begin to live like it truly does. Chapter 9. Create a life that reflects your true value. A meaningful life doesn't happen by accident, it's built intentionally, piece by piece, through decisions that align with your worth. You can't create a life that reflects your true value if you keep settling for less than you deserve, saying yes to what doesn't fulfill you, or living by someone else's definition of success. The life you live will always mirror the standards you set for yourself. When you recognize your value, you stop waiting for permission to live fully. You start shaping your days around purpose instead of obligation, around authenticity instead of expectation. Every person is born with a unique rhythm, a natural pull toward certain passions, callings, and ways of being. But most people silence that rhythm, trying to fit into a version of life that others approve of. They chase what looks good instead of what feels right. They sacrifice peace for appearance and trade authenticity for acceptance. And eventually, they feel the emptiness that comes from living out of alignment. Creating a life that reflects your true value begins the moment you decide that you're done pretending. You start choosing what resonates with your soul, not what impresses the crowd. The first step is honesty. You must be willing to face the truth about what's working in your life and what isn't. It's uncomfortable to admit that certain relationships, habits, or routines no longer serve your growth. But truth is the foundation of self-respect. You can't build a meaningful life on denial. You have to look at where you've been giving your energy away, where you've been shrinking your potential to fit someone else's comfort zone. When you start being honest with yourself, clarity returns. You begin to see what needs to stay and what needs to go. Living a life that reflects your true value means being intentional with how you spend your time. Time is the most honest reflection of what you truly value. If your days are filled with activities that drain you, conversations that numb you, or obligations that lead nowhere, then your life will reflect chaos instead of purpose. Start reclaiming your time by aligning your actions with what truly matters to you. Every hour is a choice, and each choice either brings you closer to the life you want or pulls you further away from it. When you understand that, you stop wasting your energy on what doesn't feed your spirit. You can't build a fulfilling life without learning to say no. Every yes to something meaningless is a no to something valuable. People who respect themselves don't agree to everything. They protect their energy with intention. They don't apologize for prioritizing their peace or their growth. They understand that boundaries are not barriers. They are directions that lead toward purpose. When you begin to set limits around what you allow into your space, you make room for what actually belongs there. That's how your external life begins to reflect your inner worth through clarity, not chaos. Another part of creating a life that mirrors your value is surrounding yourself with people who see and support the real you. The company you keep has a powerful influence on the quality of your life. If you constantly associate with people who dismiss your ideas, belittle your dreams, or keep you stuck in negativity, your environment will drown your potential. Seek out those who inspire growth, people who challenge you to become better, who remind you of your strength when you forget it, and who love you enough to be honest. The right environment makes self-worth easier to maintain because it reflects back the respect you give yourself. A life that honors your worth is also built through discipline. Value without action stays a dream. You can't simply think your way into a better life. You must act in alignment with what you believe you deserve. That means keeping promises to yourself, following through on your goals, and showing up even when no one is watching. When you live with consistency, your life begins to shift naturally. You attract opportunities, relationships, and experiences that match your new level of self-respect. Discipline is how you communicate your worth to the world through action, not words. Creating a life that reflects your value also requires releasing comparison. It's easy to measure yourself against others, especially in a world that constantly promotes false images of success. But someone else's path has nothing to do with yours. You can't copy another person's journey and expect fulfillment, because your purpose is not a replica, it's original. The moment you stop comparing, you start connecting with your true desires. You realize that success isn't about status, it's about alignment. When you build a life that feels good on the inside, you no longer chase validation from the outside. You'll know your life reflects your worth when peace becomes your measure of success. Not luxury, not attention, not perfection, but peace. Peace that comes from waking up without resentment, from being proud of how you treat yourself, from feeling free to express your truth without fear. That kind of peace can't be bought or faked. It's earned through self-awareness and authenticity. Every decision you make that honors your well-being brings more of that peace into your life. It's not about having everything you want, it's about being everything you are. Creating a valuable life also means being intentional with your words and thoughts. The way you speak to yourself shapes how you act. If you constantly tell yourself you're not capable, your actions will reflect that belief. But if you start affirming your worth with conviction, your behavior begins to align with confidence. Self-talk is the language of your subconscious. It programs your habits, your posture, and your expectations. When you speak to yourself with respect, you start making choices that reinforce that respect. There's also a level of courage required to live according to your worth. You'll have to make hard decisions, take risks, and sometimes stand alone. You'll face people who question your choices, misunderstand your intentions, or doubt your direction. But the cost of pleasing everyone else is losing yourself, and that's too high a price to pay. A valuable life requires bravery, the bravery to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. Once you learn to stand firm in your truth, your confidence grows naturally. You realize that approval is fleeting, but authenticity lasts. To create a life that reflects your true value, you must learn the art of letting go. Let go of old identities that no longer represent who you are becoming. Let go of guilt for choosing differently. Let go of the need to explain your evolution to people who prefer the old version of you. Growth means releasing what's comfortable to make space for what's true. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Every time you let go of what limits you, you step closer to the life that mirrors your worth. Your surroundings should echo the life you're creating. The things you own, the spaces you inhabit, and the routines you maintain all tell a story about what you value. Simplicity often reflects clarity. When you declutter your environment, you clear space for new energy to enter. Your external world becomes a visual reminder of your internal growth. When your life is built intentionally around purpose, meaning, and peace, it starts to feel like home. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. You also create a life that reflects your worth by aligning your work with your values. It doesn't mean you must have the perfect career. It means you engage in what fulfills you. You bring integrity, passion, and excellence into everything you do. When you work with purpose, even small tasks become meaningful. You stop chasing external rewards and start finding satisfaction in growth, contribution, and impact. Your work becomes an expression of your self-respect, not a substitute for it. Living a life that mirrors your worth also means honoring rest. You can't build a meaningful life if you're constantly exhausted. Rest is not laziness, it's maintenance for your mind and spirit. When you allow yourself time to recharge, you remind yourself that your value isn't tied to productivity. You deserve rest simply because you exist. A peaceful mind makes better decisions, and a restored spirit attracts better opportunities. Rest is part of the work. It's how you sustain what you're building. Over time, as you continue aligning your choices with your worth, something powerful happens. You stop chasing happiness and start creating it. You stop waiting for life to get better and start making it better. You no longer need to prove your value to anyone because your life becomes living proof of it. The relationships you keep, the boundaries you uphold, the work you pursue, and the peace you protect all reflect a person who knows their own worth deeply. A life that reflects your value doesn't need to be loud or flashy. It can be simple, calm, and deeply fulfilling. What matters is that it's yours, honest, balanced, and aligned. Every morning you wake up with purpose, and every night you go to bed knowing that you live true to yourself. That's the ultimate measure of success, to live in a way that mirrors your highest truth, to exist without pretense, and to feel at peace in your own skin. When your life becomes a reflection of your worth, you stop seeking meaning, you start living it. Chapter 10. Become the person who never begs to be respected. Respect is not something you demand, it's something you command through your presence, your consistency, and your self-respect. When you truly understand your worth, you stop pleading for validation or chasing acknowledgement. You move differently, you speak differently. You no longer try to convince people to see your value because you've already decided that it's not up for debate. Becoming the kind of person who never begs to be respected begins with one unshakable truth. You cannot force others to value you, but you can refuse to participate where respect is absent. People who beg for respect often do it without realizing it. They over-explain themselves, tolerate poor treatment, or compromise their boundaries in hopes of being appreciated. But respect that must be earned through self-abandonment is not respect, it's control. The more you chase approval, the more you teach others that your worth is negotiable. The only way to stop this cycle is to rebuild your foundation from the inside out. You must learn to treat yourself in a way that leaves no room for disrespect to exist. Respect starts in how you think about yourself. The language you use, in your own mind, sets the tone for how others perceive you. When you constantly doubt your decisions, downplay your strengths, or apologize for simply existing, people pick up on that energy. They mirror the way you treat yourself. If you speak as though your voice doesn't matter, others will believe it too. But when you walk with quiet confidence, when you make eye contact and speak with conviction, you send a different message, one that says, "I know who I am, and I'm not here to prove it." That energy shifts everything around you. Becoming someone who never begs to be respected doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being firm and grounded. It means knowing your values so clearly that you refuse to bend them for temporary acceptance. You stop trying to please everyone and start focusing on living with integrity. You realize that real respect is not given to the loudest person in the room, but to the one who carries themselves with steady composure. People trust and respect those who are consistent, not those who constantly compromise. There's a subtle but powerful difference between demanding respect and embodying it. Demanding it often comes from insecurity. It's an attempt to force acknowledgement from others because you haven't fully given it to yourself. But embodying respect is calm. It doesn't need to shout. It's the strength of someone who knows their standards and quietly enforces them. You show people how to treat you not by what you say, but by what you allow. When someone crosses a line and you respond with clarity instead of chaos, they learn quickly that your boundaries are real. A person who never begs for respect also doesn't waste time trying to change people. You can express your needs once, but if someone repeatedly disregards them, you stop arguing and start distancing. Disrespect doesn't need confrontation, it needs disconnection. The moment you stop chasing those who take you for granted, you begin to attract those who recognize your worth naturally. It's not about revenge or pride, it's about alignment. You're simply choosing to spend your energy where it's valued. It takes emotional maturity to walk away quietly. It takes strength to stay composed when someone underestimates you. But every time you remain centered, you reinforce your self-respect. You realize that other people's behavior says more about them than it does about you. You can't make someone see your value, but you can make sure you never lower your standards to keep their company. When you live this way, people start treating you differently, not because you demanded it, but because your presence requires it. Respect also comes from discipline. When you live with structure, keep your commitments, and follow through on your word, you build a reputation of reliability. People learn that your actions have weight, that your words carry meaning. This kind of integrity earns quiet respect over time. You don't need to brag about your achievements or prove your strength. It's visible in the way you move. Those who keep their promises to themselves naturally command respect from others, because consistency is rare and deeply valued. Another form of self-respect lies in emotional control. When you no longer react impulsively to every slight or insult, you show true power. Anger, defensiveness, and desperation reveal insecurity. Composure, patience, and silence reveal strength. You don't need to respond to every provocation. The person who controls their emotions controls the situation. When you stay calm, you maintain the upper hand not over others, but over yourself. That calm presence makes people think twice before crossing you, not because they fear you, but because they recognize that your peace is not easily disturbed. Becoming the person who never begs to be respected means removing yourself from environments where you are consistently undervalued. No amount of loyalty should tie you to places that diminish your spirit. The longer you stay where you're disrespected, the more you teach yourself to tolerate it. You don't have to make a scene or prove a point. Simply leave. Silence is often louder than confrontation. When you exit quietly, with dignity intact, you demonstrate self-respect in its purest form. It's also important to understand that respect doesn't mean everyone will like you. Some will misunderstand your boundaries as arrogance. Others will be uncomfortable with your confidence because it reminds them of their own lack of it. That's not your problem to fix. The goal isn't to be liked, it's to be authentic. Respect rooted in truth lasts longer than approval rooted in performance. The more you live in alignment with your principles, the more peace you find, regardless of who agrees. You earn respect by standing firm when it would be easier to bend. When you say no to things that violate your values, you strengthen your inner authority. You become someone who can't be easily manipulated because you're not afraid of being alone. Most people beg for respect because they fear rejection. But when you learn to enjoy your own company, rejection loses its sting. You stop settling for crumbs of attention because you've built a life that nourishes you from within. Solitude becomes your strength, not your punishment. People respect what they cannot control. When you are self-reliant, emotionally stable, and unbothered by external opinions, you become untouchable. It's not arrogance, it's grounded confidence. You stop oversharing your plans, you move quietly, and you let your results speak. You keep your word without needing applause. You help others without seeking praise. You live in alignment without broadcasting it. That kind of humility, combined with discipline, earns the deepest form of respect, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken. To live without begging for respect, you must know what you stand for. Define your values clearly: honesty, consistency, kindness, courage, or whatever principles guide your life. Once you have those, every decision becomes simpler. You no longer get lost in pleasing others because your path is already marked by what you believe in. When people see that you live according to principle rather than popularity, they may not always agree with you, but they will respect you. Integrity commands respect far more than charm ever could. There's also freedom in no longer explaining yourself to everyone. You don't owe a detailed justification for every boundary you set, every decision you make, or every change you pursue. The more you defend your choices, the more you invite people to question them. Quiet certainty is far more powerful than endless explanation. When you live with clear intent, your actions speak louder than your explanations ever could. People eventually learn that your decisions are not open for debate, they are expressions of self-respect. The moment you stop begging for respect, life begins to shift. You start moving differently, calmer, stronger, more intentional. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop chasing people and start attracting the right ones naturally. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, because your life itself becomes proof of your discipline, your clarity, and your self-worth. You learn to walk away from disrespect, not out of pride, but out of peace, and that peace becomes your greatest power. Respect flows toward those who live in truth. When you value your word, your time, your energy, and your principles, the world reflects that value back to you. It may not happen instantly, but it happens inevitably. The more consistent you are in living with self-respect, the less you need to demand it. Because real respect can't be begged for, it's earned through the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. So, become the person who never begs to be respected. Become the one whose silence carries authority, whose actions speak louder than pride, whose presence commands attention without effort. Live with quiet conviction. Stand tall in your truth. Hold your boundaries without apology. The respect you seek will come naturally, not because you asked for it, but because you became the kind of person who no longer needs to.